If everyone can please rise for the colors. Present the colors.
Forward, hard. Forward, hard. Guard. Halt. Left, hit. Reset, hard.
Today's invocation will be presented by Father Daniel Schwartz. A native of Columbus, Ohio, Father Daniel Schwartz attended Bishop Watterson High School and went on to St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Father Schwartz attended the Pontifical College of the Josephinum and was ordained a Roman Catholic priest in May of 2016 from the Diocese of Columbus. He was commissioned an officer for the Navy Chaplains Candidate Officer Program in 2016 and is set to go on active duty as a chaplain in early July of this year. The location of his deployment has yet to be announced.
Thank you. A quick update to my bio. I actually just got the call. I'm being deployed with Marine 1st Division 5th Regiment, so it seems to go with the theme for today.
Hoorah!
No, whenever a sailor walks into my office, it's always like, well, it's a pleasure. Whenever a Marine walks into my office, I'm like, my God, what have you done? We bring ourselves into the presence of God. Gracious Lord, we are mindful and thankful for your many blessings in our lives. We offer our thanks that we may enjoy this meal in the comfort of peace and fraternity. Bless those gathered here, the meal we are to receive, the hands who have prepared it, and those who go without today. We ask this in your most holy name. Amen.
And the colors come to attention. Udo Marosher and the Greater Columbus Concert Band will now perform our national anthem.
Is it on? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing as a special guest leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Wendell Ellenwood served in the U.S. Army during World War II as an artillery forward observer in the 3rd Army under General Patton. Landed at Utah Beach, fought across Europe in the Battle of the Bulge, and after the war returned to the Ohio State University, later becoming the director of the Drake and the Ohio Unions. Mr. Ellenwood, if you would please.
Thank you. Please face the flags on the stage. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Retire the colors.
Forward, heart. Forward, heart. Forward, heart.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. In 1949, Secretary of Defense Lewis Johnson announced the creation of an Armed Forces Day to replace separate service days after the unification of the U.S. forces under the Department of Defense. President Truman led the effort to establish this holiday for citizens to come together and thank our military members for their patriotic service in support of our country. President Kennedy then made it a national holiday. May 20th, 1950 was the first celebrated Armed Forces Day, and I believe MilVets is going on 33, 34 years now for this event here in Columbus. MilVets' mission is to bring together organizations, military associations, and promote patriotism by conducting public discussion, parades, banquets, and similar events to create and maintain community awareness for a need for a strong military. We provide scholarships to ROTC students and their military families. Finally, MilVets is organized and recognized and coordinates contributions to the community by various veteran and active military individuals and organizations. MilVets has taken on 2 community events during which scholarships are awarded: the Armed Forces Day Luncheon like today, and the Columbus Veterans Day Parade in November. MilVets is a 501c3 nonprofit organization and is governed and operated through a board of trustees. These trustees are chosen based on their interest and support of the veteran and military community of Central Ohio. MilVets operates through donations by sponsors. We operate totally by donations from sponsors and individuals with similar goals. My name's Pete Zaretic, and I'm the current president of MilVets. I want to say welcome, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for serving, and thank you for coming out today to honor other veterans and officials in this great country. Welcome to the 2019 MilVets Armed Forces Luncheon. Please welcome our chair for this event and the vice president of MilVets, Carrie Killingsworth. And before she takes over, for a couple ground rules. Start eating, enjoy yourselves, look to the person to your left and right and introduce yourselves. This is your day, and we are delighted that you're here. Thank you. Good?
Yeah. My little T-Rex arms can't reach that far. I really thought when he said ground rules, they were going to be for me. So, as my fellow Nationwiders right here in the front, go Nationwide, know very well, I am all about speaking my mind. So, one of the few things that I'm extremely proud of is not just my personal service in the Army, but also the fact that I'm the daughter of an Air Force Vietnam vet, the granddaughter of a Navy guy. We had to get one in there, and the great-granddaughter of a World War I Navy veteran. So we have a little bit of military service in my family. So I'm very proud and honored to be this year's chair, and I hope you are enjoying your meals and you're enjoying this fellowship this year. And this is where I'm going to cry. So, as many other veteran groups are aware, active memberships in several organizations are declining. And we lost 2 of our own this year, in the past year, excuse me. And in your program, you will see Leroy and Bobby, who were characters, smartasses, patriots, and just all around good guys. One thing you'll notice that's actually missing from Leroy's information is he was posthumously inducted into the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. And there's Anna, his wife. And then we also, excuse me, and is Tara here? Oh, and that's Bobby's family as well as joining us today. We love you guys. And all of my nationwiders are going to make really big fun of me after this. So in addition to Leroy being inducted posthumously into the Veterans Hall of Fame, we also had another member, Merle Pratt, inducted. Congratulations. Where's Merle? Where's he at? I know he's here. There he is. No, don't sit down. Stand up. As you can tell, MilVets is a group of doers, and we are very proud of our fellow members who have been honored. And in fact, will anyone who's been inducted into the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame please stand? For those who aren't aware, the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame is an honor given after military service for those who have continued to serve in their communities. Excuse me, and when I think of that, one name comes to mind immediately, and that is the Emcee for today and Navy guy, Steve Ebersol. Not that I'm biased about not liking the Navy. Born in Findlay, Ohio, Steve has been married to his wonderful and long-suffering wife, Carol, for 51 years. She gets hazard pay. Shortly after he graduated, he started his career in the telephone industry and also was a naval reservist. He is the second of 3 generations in the Navy. Not everybody is smart enough to go Army. Steve served 1 tour aboard the aircraft carrier, and I'm going to say this incorrectly because Kearsarge, oh right. I'm sure someone will correct me later. In the waters off of Vietnam. His son Dennis is also continuing the Navy tradition here in Columbus, Ohio, and he is the rank of commander in the Washington, D.C. area. In addition to Dennis, they also have Brenda, and between those 2, they have 7 grandchildren. And in the bio, it says that Steve is now retired. That's a lie. The man is not retired. He is just not officially employed anywhere. He continues to serve his community as an American Legion as adjunct to the historic Navy Marine Post 276 here in Columbus. He's also served in many previous positions in the American Legion at the post, district, state, and national levels. He's obviously a valued member of the Board of Trustees of MilVets. He's on the steering committee for the Central Ohio Stand Down and is the past Ohio State coordinator of the Missing in America project. It is my honor to introduce your MC for today, Steve Ebersol.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the 33rd Columbus Armed Forces Day Luncheon. I am honored to MC it this year. And as a personal point of privilege, I'd like to send greetings from my son to his former unit back there in the back. Shipmates back there meet every year here, and Dennis was unfortunate not to be, or could not make it today. This time I'd like to recognize our honored military and civilian guests sitting at the head table. Please hold your applause to the end. Going left to right. Major General John C. Harris, Adjutant General for the Army, Ohio National Guard. Brigadier General James R. Camp, Assistant Adjutant General for the Air National Guard. Colonel Daniel Schenk, Assistant Adjutant General for the Army, Ohio National Guard. Deborah Ashenhurst, Director, Ohio Department of Veterans Services. Mark Brown, Acquisition Executive, DLA Land and Maritime, DSCC. Commander James Prouty, the Commanding Officer, Naval Operations Support Center, Columbus. Rear Admiral John Palmer, DLA Land and Maritime Commander. Marilyn Brown, President, Franklin County Commissioner. The Governor of the great state of Ohio, Governor Mike Dewine. And the First Lady, Fran Dewine. Pat Dewine, Supreme Court Justice. Please hold your applause. We excused it for the governor. Sharon Kennedy, Supreme Court Justice. Dave Yost, State Attorney General. Robert Sprague, State Treasurer. Lieutenant General Michael Ferreter, President and CEO, National Veterans Memorial and Museum. Thank you all for attending and joining us to honor our armed forces. We have some additional elected officials that I would like to recognize. Great supporter of what we do here, Franklin County Engineer Cornell Robertson. State Chairman, the Ohio Republican Party, Jan Timken. Mary Ann Hempter, Delaware County Municipal Judge. David Gromley, Delaware County Common Pleas Judge. I'm probably abusing these names, I apologize. Jim Shuck, Delaware County Common Pleas Judge. David Umanowski, sorry, Delaware County Probate and Juvenile Court Judge. Alex Bilczek, Auditor, Farber, Deputy Chief of Staff. Aaron Locklear, Secretary of State License, LaRose, Office Veterans Liaison. Cindy DeNovo, Delaware County Municipal Clerk of Courts. A little closer to my home, Tom Nealon, Mayor of Gahanna. Jeff Spence, Gahanna Chief of Police. Mark Thomas, Gahanna Public Safety Director. Apologies to anyone that we may have missed. At this time, we'd like to recognize our sponsors. Everyone, again, please hold your applause until the end. Please stand when your group is called. It is because of these folks that we're able to do what we do. The scholarships for our ROTC cadets, as well as our military families, plus put on this fine dinner, and also the Veterans Day Parade. American Legion, Department of Ohio. Chase Bank, please hold your applause. Chase Bank. Columbus State Community College. Dr. Ernst and Mary Carducci, the Manning Carducci Company. Unfortunately, this group can't be with us today, but he is still a great sponsor and a supporter of this organization. Fast Signs of Columbus, Mike Thatcher. Franklin County Engineer, Cornell, it wasn't coming out right. Cornell Robertson, apologize. Huntington, Meyer, Mott's Military Museum. I know you're here, Mott's. Nationwide, I know you guys are here. PNC, VFW, Department of Ohio, and VFW Ohio Charities. Worthington AM Rotary. Okay. Please join me in recognizing these valued partners and strong supporters of MilVets in the Central Ohio community in the public and private sector. The scholarships that we provide, that MilVet organization provides this luncheon and the Veterans Day Parade would not be possible without the support of the Central Ohio community. There is another important acknowledgement that we make today. To your far left is a place setting for one, indicating one of our comrades is missing from our midst. They are commonly called POWs or MIAs. We call them brothers or sisters. They are unable to be with us today, but we remember them. The table is set for one. It is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his oppressors. The tablecloth is white. It is not, unfortunately. Symbolizing their country's call to arms. The single red rose displays reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrades in arms who keep the faith awaiting their return. The red ribbon tied prominently on the vase is reminiscent of the red ribbon worn above the label of thousands who bear witness to those unyielding determination to demand a proper accounting for our missing. The candle is lit, symbolizing the upward reach of their unconquerable spirit. A slice of lemon is on the bread plate to remind us of their bitter. The salt is there on the bread plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait. The chair is empty, they are not here. Remember until the day they come home. Remember. If we have any former POWs, would you please rise at this time? Thank you. In addition to Mr. Elwood, we have another special guest, World War II veteran John Kauffman. Mr. Kauffman served in the Army Signal Corps in the Pacific. He installed communication support for the 10th Army, including radio system support for the Okinawa campaign. Mr. Kauffman was one of 3 brothers who served in World War II. His brother Frank served in the European theater with the 3rd Armored Division, where he was wounded. Another brother, Joe, served in the 7th Infantry Division in the Philippines and Okinawa, where he was killed in action. Will all of our World War II veterans rise and be recognized? At this time, I have one more group I'd like to recognize, and that is it's time to honor our Gold Star families. I would ask them to rise, please. Back there. We honor you for your sacrifice. Thank you. Thank you. The wonderful staff of Villa Milano has prepared a lovely meal for us today, and they are serving, as you've already noticed. At this time, we'll hear from our state's Commander-in-Chief, little cue off here. At this time, we'll hear from our state's Commander-in-Chief, Governor Mike Dewine.
I apologize, but they just put chicken in front of me.
Well, I'm honored to be here to represent all the people of the state of Ohio, to say thank you to our veterans. Thank you to all those who are in active duty. And we think today about all those who are not here, those who did not come back. We also think of those who are in the active service today who are serving us, serving our country around the world. I have a proclamation. It is a proclamation, which I'll read a little bit of it. Whereas the Military Veterans Education Foundation was founded in 1987 to promote continuing education and support for the armed forces and veterans in Central Ohio. The military veterans sponsored the annual Armed Forces Day Luncheon and both co-sponsor and participate in the Columbus Veterans Day Parade. Whereas MilVets have established a professional and academic enrichment, internship, and mentoring program designed to give back to those who have served while further developing the skills and professionalism of its members. Whereas for 3 decades, the MilVets have been honoring and supporting the military and veteran community of Central Ohio while promoting a greater understanding among the general public of the contributions to the armed forces past and present. Now, therefore, we, Mike DeWine and John Husted, Governor and Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio, do hereby recognize the MilVets on this 17th day of May 2019. We thank them for their great work, and again, we thank all our veterans, all who have sacrificed, all who have paid the price so that we could be free, so that we can enjoy this great country that we're privileged to live in every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Now we'll hear from the Ohio Attorney General, Dave Yost.
It's my high honor to be the Chief Law Officer of the state of Ohio with the responsibility of seeing to the enforcement of the rule of law within this jurisdiction. But there is an evil abroad in the world that accepts no jurisdiction, that recognizes no rule of law other than the law of force. I'm here today to salute on Armed Forces Day all those under arms, all those in uniform whose duty it is to use that law when necessary to preserve our freedom. I salute you and present this proclamation in honor of your work and your steady service. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. We'll now hear from a gentleman who I know has a very important job here, but he also has a history with the American Legion. His great-grandfather was one of the original founders of the American Legion following World War I. The Ohio Treasurer, Robert Sprague.
Thank you. On behalf of the Office of the Ohio Treasury, we just wanted to present a commendation to the MilVets organization, and also wanted to mention here, I'm sitting beside General Ferreder, and his son deployed out today. We just want to say thank you to all of our military families, our military and veterans for what you do and what you sacrifice for our great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sprague. Now we'll hear from the Franklin County Commissioner and current Council President, Marilyn Brown.
It is always an honor to be here. On behalf of my colleagues, John O'Grady, Commissioner Kevin Boyce, and I bring greetings from them and a proclamation from the Board of Commissioners, because we thank you, all of you, your families, all of our residents who have served and their families who have been with our members of the military who have served so well. And on a personal note, I want to thank the Navy members and their families. My dad was a Navy member in World War II, and it holds a special feeling for me to be here today. So thank you all of military families, and to those who have served, thank you.
Thank you. Milvets has also received a proclamation from Mayor Ginther, the City of Columbus. Unfortunately, he could not be with us today. We have also received a proclamation from Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, who is working hard on behalf of Ohio in D.C. In addition, we have received video messages that we'll share with you now.
I'm Sherrod Brown. It's a great privilege to serve as your United States Senator. First and most important, thank you. Thanks to all the veterans for your service and your sacrifice for our country, and to your families too, who sacrifice alongside you, yet too often don't get the recognition that they deserve. Finally, thank you to the Military Veterans Education Foundation for holding this annual Armed Forces Day Luncheon. To those receiving scholarships, congratulations. You demonstrated the leadership and commitment to service needed to represent our great country. Today's students will be the next generation of military leaders. That's why MilVets is so important. For more than 2 decades, your work has meant so much to our veterans and, of course, to our whole communities. You inspire us, you pay tribute to our nation's past while preparing for a bright future. This year's honored branch, the Navy, embodies that spirit. One of our oldest branches of the military, dating back to October 1775, when George Washington urged Congress to form the Continental Navy to defend the American colonies. More than 240 years later, the Navy's the strongest in the world, with technology that would overwhelm and mystify those early patriots. By the end of this year, more than 400,000 Americans will serve in the Navy or the Navy Reserves, making our nation so proud. On behalf of a grateful state, thank you to all of our soldiers, our veterans, their families, for carrying on the Navy's proud tradition of service and sacrifice.
Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Rob Portman. I really wish I could be with you today at Central Ohio MilVets Armed Forces Day Lunch, but I'm with you in spirit as you honor the men and women in uniform. I'm proud that every year, Columbus MilVets Armed Forces Day is one of the largest gatherings of its kind in the entire country. I especially wish I could be there to hear from our keynote speaker, Rear Admiral John Palmer, who's doing a great job leading DLA Land and Maritime here in Columbus. Commander, I look forward to continuing to work with you on behalf of all the great men and women at your installation. This year, MilVets is honoring the United States Navy, and with Admiral Palmer's over 30-year career, I know he'll do an excellent job recognizing the exemplary work of our naval forces. Service to our country is part of who we are in Ohio. There are more than 800,000 Ohioans who are veterans. We're proud to be the home of so many heroes. I'm proud of my dad, my grandfather, who were both Army infantry lieutenants, one in World War I and one in World War II. I think about them on a day like this. They brought me up with the example of service that I've never forgotten. They taught me from a young age that we're the land of the free because we're the home of the brave. It's that simple. It was true back then, and it's true now. When President Truman established Armed Forces Day in 1949, our troops had just won the biggest war in history and saved the world from fascism. Nearly 70 years later, we face a number of growing threats to our security. We live in a dangerous and volatile world, and while those threats have changed over time, what keeps us safe and free is still our strong military, the ability to project force. We want peace, but peace comes from strength. So to all who have served and all who are now serving, thank you for what you do, and Godspeed.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm your Congressman Troy Balderson. I'm so sorry I can't be there with you today to honor members of our military at the annual Columbus Armed Forces Day Luncheon. Please know that I'm there with you in spirit. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the sponsors of today's luncheon, MilVets, as well as Rear Admiral John Palmer and the Columbus Concert Band. And a special congratulations to the recipients of today's ROTC and Junior ROTC scholarships. As Americans, we owe a debt of gratitude to every man and woman in uniform who serve our country so honorably. Each day, members of each of the 5 branches of our military give their time, even put their lives on the line to defend the core values that make us fundamentally American: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The United States is proud to have the strongest military in the world, one that has repeatedly taken the fight for democracy and individual liberty overseas. Our military has shown we won't shy away from defending what is right, even if that means doing what is difficult. More often than not, our military has emerged victorious. The United States military is a shining icon of American values and remains a symbol of what our nation holds dearest. For these reasons, I thank each of you for your service to our country. I'd be remiss if I did not recognize military spouses and families who serve alongside their members and are owed a great deal of respect. Thank you for your service, too. I'd also like to take a moment to pay respect to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and their Gold Star families, who have lost the most important person in their lives. You are not forgotten, and our nation is forever indebted to you. Finally, I'd like to honor the branch of our military being given special recognition today, the United States Navy. As the largest and most capable Navy in the world, the United States Navy is not to be taken lightly. In our world, the U.S. Navy is not only unparalleled in size, but also in might, distinction, and honor. To our sailors here today, I salute you. Again, I'm sorry I can't be here today, but I hope you have a wonderful luncheon this afternoon. Thank you again for your service to our country. May God bless the United States military, and may God bless the United States of America.
We thank them all for their warm wishes. I'd like to have Commander Prouty please come to this podium. I now have the honor of introducing Commander James Prouty, Commanding Officer, Naval Operations Support Center, Columbus.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come here today to introduce our guest speaker and also to recognize the MilVets. They really are a party of doers, along with multiple other organizations in our community, such as the USO, the Navy League, MASH Pantry. I mean, you can keep on going on, but I'll tell you from my perspective, where I lead 600 Naval Reservists down in Rickenbacker, sons and daughters of Ohio, they receive your kindness, your generational gifts, that I just want to let you know from them, thank you very much for all that effort. So the Admiral told me, he said, keep it short if you know what's good for you. So Rear Admiral John Palmer is a native of Lexington, Kentucky, and a 1988 graduate of the Citadel with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. Last June, coming from the U.S. Pacific Fleet, where he serves as the Director of Logistics, Fleet Supply, and Ordnance, Rear Admiral Palmer assumed command of the Defense Logistic Agency, Land and Maritime, located in our great city of Columbus. Hoo-yah. As DLA Land and Maritime Commander, he oversees the end-to-end integration of all land and maritime supply chains, delivering repair parts to all military services. As you can imagine, this is no small task, requires about 2,500 associates at 37 locations worldwide. So without further ado, Rear Admiral John Palmer.
Okay, good afternoon. How are we doing? All right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow veterans, or I say veterans and I will one day be a veteran, fellow service members, honored guests, it's a real pleasure to be here, and it's such a large gathering. People are excited. I've met so many people before we sat down to eat, and I'm just thrilled to be here. We have so many wonderful honored guests. I'd be remiss if I didn't name a few. So, of course, we mentioned the governor before, the Honorable Mike Dewine. What he may not remember is we've actually met before. It was a couple months ago. I was in the airport. I was not in uniform. I did not identify myself, and I joined a small group of people who were wishing him good luck in his current endeavor. And we were all going to separate airplanes. And so it was analogous to that, at the end of a Little League game where the two teams are walking by and they're just saying, good game, good game, good game, good game. It was that kind of handshake. But, sir, it's a real pleasure to be here with you. And it's also a pleasure to make your acquaintance in a more formal fashion. And you honor us with your presence. Thank you very much. The Honorable Sharon Kennedy and Pat Dewine, Associate Justices of the Ohio Supreme Court, welcome. The Honorable David Yost, we got to shake hands before the start of this, the State Attorney General. Real pleasure to see you, sir. The Honorable Robert Sprague, State Treasurer. And we also have Miss Marilyn Brown. I got to meet her and sitting beside her, President and Franklin County Commissioner. We have retired Lieutenant General Michael Ferreter, who's President and CEO of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum. I have to tell you, he was kind enough to invite me to the opening. I attended. It's a fantastic place. It is well worth your time if you get the opportunity. Please go visit. We also have, crossing our paths in the past, the same alma mater. So, sir, it's great to see another Citadel graduate in the room. Go Dogs. Major General John C. Harris, Adjutant General for Army, Ohio National Guard. Sir, real good to see you. Retired Major General Deborah Ashenhurst, Director, Ohio Department of Veterans Services. Ma'am, it's good to see you. I got to stop over at the table of your cohorts. What a team. I tell you, it's, you are in good hands. Brigadier General James R. Camp, I was able to meet him before we started, Assistant Adjutant General for Air, Ohio National Guard. I'm going to weave a little Air Force into this Navy talk, so please be listening up, okay? We also have Mr. Mark Brown, the Acquisition Executive for DLA Land and Maritime, sitting right there. So at DLA Land and Maritime, I'm not going to tell you a lot about what we do, but just in short, we do 1,100 contracts totaling $12 million per day, 365 days a year. It's a $4 billion operation, and it is all under his purview. So to say that I lean on Mark Brown is a gross understatement. I'll also point out he is a retired Navy captain of 27 years service. Welcome aboard, Mark. Colonel Promotable Daniel Shank. Now, for you Navy folks out there, that's code for Brigadier General Select. Congratulations. And he is the Assistant Adjutant General for Army, Ohio National Guard. And, of course, Commander James Prouty, who introduced me. And this is not our first rodeo. I went to the Navy Ball, for which he hosted last year. He throws a great Navy ball. If you are fortunate enough to get an invitation around October, it is well worth your time. You will have a good time. And, of course, MilVets. Wow, what a wonderful organization. And I am pleased and proud to be here. And they're led by President Pete Zoretic. And I also got to meet Pete's father, and that was a real pleasure as well. So I'm invited as a naval officer, but I want to take a moment to show my appreciation to our service members and our veterans here today. And I would say most wholeheartedly, it is an exclusive club, service members and veterans. We live in a country of 327 million people. There are 2.1 million people in uniform. There are 18 million people who have served in the past, otherwise known as veterans. With my business degree and mastery of big buttons on the calculator, that shows about 5% people who are serving or have served, with the other 95 who have not. So this exclusive club to which we all belong is also the cream of the crop. To join the military, you have to be fit, you have to be intelligent, you have to have high character. Only 25% of our population can qualify just to show up at boot camp, let alone finish it and serve. And the end state is the most effective fighting force in recorded history. You are all GOATs, the greatest of all time, a world-class organization. But when you are a world-class organization, every now and then someone will try and take you down a peg. I'm often amused when I read the newspaper. It happens about once a year where a myopic college professor admonishes his or her students and says, hey, you better study hard, because if you don't, you'll have to go in the U.S. military. Make no mistake about it, I am a fan of educators. Although the son of a farmer, my mother was a teacher, my sister is a vice principal, my brand new daughter-in-law is a teacher, so I am a fan. But I would advise those myopic college professors that presently, in this day and time, there is no national scandal going on about people trying to cheat their way into boot camp. When I say cream of the crop, I mean it. As we said, fit, smart, good conduct, and one more thing, a fair measure of courage. And so I would tell you as a senior naval officer, I am always impressed and often amazed at the quality of young folks that we are getting to join our ranks, both officers and enlisted. It is astounding. But I will also say that it is a legacy we have inherited from our wonderful veterans, the people in this room today. And so I ask our folks in uniform and those that may not have served to join me in a round of applause for the veterans in this room today. I don't intend to give you the same Navy speech where we talk about how many ships we have and where and so forth, because you probably heard it before, and that would not be so fun. So I'm going to talk a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about my Navy experience and how I came to join the Navy, in large part because I was influenced by so many other people from the other services. And so you'll get a little flavor of nearly every service here. So my Navy experience is an outgrowth, quite honestly, of the U.S. Army. My brother is a 26-year cavalry officer, recently retired. His nephew, his son, my nephew, is a lieutenant at Fort Hood right now. My grandmother, born in the 1800s, gave birth to a litter of soldiers. She had, at the close of World War II, and I address these remarks to these folks over at this table, our World War II veterans, she had the authority to fly on the front of her cabin, so to speak, in eastern Kentucky, a flag with 3 blue stars and 1 gold star. My father, himself a veteran of the 11th Airborne in the Pacific Theater in World War II. His brother, Carl, was in the 3rd Army in the European Theater. Now, he stayed in, Uncle Carl, and he retired as a Command Sergeant Major. My Uncle Bob is a member of the U.S. Army Air Corps, also in the European Theater. See, there's that Air Force kind of mix there. You know, the predecessor of the Air Force, U.S. Army Air Corps, checking the block. And then, as I say, my Uncle Samuel. So it's not lost on me, we have a gold star table here. And I would tell you that we lost my Uncle Samuel at Normandy. And so to the Palmer family, the empty chair was a very real thing. And so for our Gold Star families, you have my deep appreciation for your sacrifice. And I have to tell you that we cannot begin to know how much you have given, but we thank you. So my grandmother sitting on her porch in her 80s and I in my teens in a little cabin when I would go visit her in eastern Kentucky, she would say to me, "It took 4 of my boys to whip Mr. Hitler, but we got it done." And so that's the family I came from. It is very strong Army influence. So it's time for me to go to college, and I choose the Citadel. Actually, my father helped me choose the Citadel. And the reason why is as a farm kids can be a little wild. I won't say bad, but I'll say a little bit wild. So I needed to go someplace where they made me study 5 hours a night, and it's amazing when you do the work how easy the grades come. And so I went to the Citadel, and a very interesting thing, when you go there you have to choose an ROTC because we commission from all of them, including the Coast Guard. And so I would tell you that with all this Navy, all this Army history in my family, a whole lot of hua and a whole lot of dua, I chose the Navy. And why? It was a simple decision. It was to make Dad mad. And it worked. So I was going there and really hadn't thought much about actually serving. So I'm in the Navy ROTC at the end of the first year. A gentleman named Lieutenant Bond asked me to go down to his office. He says, "You got some pretty good grades." I said, "My mom's a teacher, I better." He said, "How would you like for us to give you a 3-year Navy scholarship?" I said, "Okay, what do I have to do?" 4 years serving time in the Navy. After you graduate, I said, "Sold." Because as a farm kid, you're only one bad weather year away from not having money to go to college. So I went on ahead and said, "I'll do it. That sounds great. I'm going to join the Navy. I'm going to do my 4 years, and I'm going to get out, and I'm going to be Thurston Howell III. I'm going to be the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm going to make the big bucks. But it's only going to be 4 years. Can't give you any more than that." Fine. So then I commissioned in 1988. 31 years later, 1 wife, 2 children, 3 grandkids, 6 dogs, 1 cat. The cat was not my idea. 17 sets of orders, 4 ships, about 9 years at sea, 4 commands with operations and detachments in 6 countries. And Ohio, our newest home and a wonderful home, is the 10th state in which we have lived. So what happened? How did I go from Mr. Big Bucks to 31 years in the Navy? That's a really good question. I'll tell you, I got bitten by the bug. It got to me. I didn't like it, I loved it. And why? Because the Navy adds variety to your life, and it brings to you friends for life. In the variety, there's a whole lot you can talk about. So first and foremost, I'm a Supply Corps officer. It is a great part of the Navy to be in because we are not constrained by anything. We're on everything from SEAL teams to submarines and everything in between, and we can switch tour by tour by tour. So the young person who's jumping out of airplanes as a SEAL Team N4, the very next tour can be 300 feet underwater as a submarine supply officer. So we have a lot of variety there. And you may look at my bio and you see the Amphibious Navy with the Marines. That was my first ship. Tin Can Navy on a frigate was my second ship, and then 2 aircraft carriers, capital ships of the line. So we have a lot of variety there. But I would tell you when you're out in the Navy, it's not just the stuff you expect to do that is so much fun. It's the unexpected little achievements and challenges that are fun as well. And I want to cover a few of them with you. So on my first ship, the USS Guam, amphibious assault ship, 1,200 Marines, 600 sailors. 9 days notice, we get underway for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Our boilers were torn apart. Put them back together, we're underway, don't know when we're coming home. It wound up being 8 months. So we get to, we do some of the stuff that you would expect. And I would say from a standpoint of the standard military expectations, the most noteworthy thing we did is we transited mined waters so we could launch aircraft. And in the mined waters, the Princeton hit a mine. The aft lookout got blown about 20 feet up in the air. Luckily, he landed on the flight deck. He's a little cut up and bruised, but he's okay. The Tripoli hit a mine, 30-foot hole in the front of the port bow, right where the hazmat locker is. Nothing ignited. Nobody got hurt. We're very lucky. We didn't hit a mine, but we sure were knowledgeable about the fact that ships in our company were. But that's not the one thing I take into my old and my gray days from the USS Guam, because a few weeks earlier, and a few days before the air war, we were sent at flank speed with the USS Trenton off the coast of Somalia to rescue 281 people from 13 countries from the U.S. Embassy compound. It's called the greatest exercise, or it's called the greatest exercise you never heard of, the greatest operation you never heard of, because the air war was coming up in the next couple of days and no one talked about it. But the Marines, and there's a Marine table back there, that were with the embassy, did their job keeping the bad guys out and the good guys in while we could get down there. And then we sent in our helicopters with a whole bunch of Marines and SEALs, brought 281 souls back. And when that elevator dropped to the hangar, and you saw 281 faces of people that you knew, if you weren't there with that Navy Marine Corps team, would not be around the next day, that's what you remember in your old and gray days. They were dirty. They'd been laying in the dirt. The interesting story, there was a member of the British SAS that came over from the British Embassy, and he refined his sniper skills from his days gone back, and were picking people off the wall in conjunction with our Marines to keep the bad guys out. They didn't have any clothes. We gave them our clothes. So the 281 people are walking around in Navy and Marine Corps uniforms of different combinations. It was a lot of fun. There was a pregnant lady there from the Sudan, and she had her child on the ship as we were transiting back to Oman. So I guess that makes it 282. Not a bad day for the sailors and Marines of the USS Guam. So I go to USS, and I say this is nothing special, because in our Navy and our sea services, everyone has stories like this. I just happen to have a whole bunch of them because I'm old. So my second ship is the USS Boone. It is a frigate. It's one of the smallest warships you can have. It moves around so much you very often walk down the passageway with 1 foot on the floor and 1 foot on the wall. We call it a bulkhead because it will heel over about 15 to 20 degrees as a normal course of business. We did some great stuff in the Mediterranean, Operation Sharp Guard, supporting the Balkans, and the activities going there, working for a German admiral. It was fabulous. But what I remember is a drug bust we did. It was a really neat operation. We're in the Caribbean. We get a small cigarette boat, put the helicopter in the air, the rotor wash conks out the engines of the boat. We pull a couple people up and get 600 pounds of uncut pure cocaine. Now, I am no expert in the industry, but it looked like a lot to me. And I know our two Supreme Court justices over there right now in the back of their minds are thinking, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be doing law enforcement. How did you do that? Well, this is where we talk about the other services. Because the most important thing we had on that ship was not a missile, not a gun. It wasn't fuel, it wasn't the engines. It was a Coast Guard officer. He stayed with us all the time. And if we engaged in an operation where we thought we might run afoul of the rules and laws that say we can't do law enforcement, we would send a message to higher authorities. We'd get a message back. The Coast Guard officer would walk out to the mast. We'd run the Coast Guard flag up. We would convert from the USS Boone, Warship 28, to Coast Guard Vessel Boone, and the ship would be under the nominal command of the Coast Guard officer. So I don't know if we have any Coast Guard here, but I proudly say for little tiny stints in my career, I served in the Coast Guard. But it's one of those things you don't expect to do, but you do, and you take it into your old and gray moments. And so that was the USS Boone, USS George Washington. I could tell you about Operation Iraqi Freedom and dropping tons of ordnance and the like, and that was important, and it was good work, and it was necessary work. I'd prefer to tell you about a few months earlier, on September 11th, 2001, when we'd just come out of the yards and we were independent steaming off the Virginia Capes. We had little to no fuel for aircraft. We had no ordnance absent small arms. We did not have our decks certified. We did not even have our arresting gear configured. And we're out there just doing a shakedown cruise. Well, the Twin Towers are hit. We get the order and we go at flank speed north to New York. And we hear over the 1MC, which is our public announcement, prepare to receive aircraft. Well, what are you talking about? We don't have any of our gear set up. So we set up the arresting gear, and we take 16 airplanes that bring whatever ordnance, whatever missiles on their wings that they have. Anything with a tail hook with a qualified pilot came out. And we trapped 16 airplanes. And we, as a team, provided air cover for New York City for that day and the remaining week. And so I will tell you, in that particular moment, it was a great difference from what I expected to do on board the USS George Washington. The governor of the great state of New York asked us to pull in close enough so the people of New York could see us. I have a picture in my office. It was not released to the public by the Navy, I can only assume out of respect for the fallen. It shows the USS George Washington launching aircraft with Manhattan behind us and the smoke from the towers. There's a great story in the New York press a couple days later about a veteran walking with his grandchildren on the beaches of Long Island. And he points to the carrier and he says, "You no longer have to worry, we're safe." So that's what I take from my George Washington tour, not so much what we did overseas, but the very unique opportunity to actually provide physical protection here at home. And then my final ship, the USS Harry S Truman, yet another ship named for an Army officer. When are we going to get Camp Nimitz or Fort Halsey? Okay, come on. Anyhow, so Harry S Truman is a great ship, and we were getting ready to deploy and do all the great things that we do when we take an aircraft carrier overseas and in harm's way. But that's not what I remember. I remember Katrina hitting New Orleans. We got underway in about a half a day, loaded out with everything you might imagine, MREs, water, cots, tents, building material, anything that might help. We had no idea what we were taking into whom, but we took it down there and we sent it in country. Our helicopters pulled some people off of roofs. And so while the Harry S Truman may be known for great exploits in the recent deployment they had, in my experience, the Harry S Truman comes to mind in my old and gray days when we provided humanitarian assistance and disaster relief to our own people in New Orleans. Those old and gray moments are important, and sometimes it is what you don't expect that really gives you the spice of life. The other thing the Navy gives you, as I said, we're friends for life. Now, we call them shipmates in the Navy. They will pick you up when you're down. When you're scared, they'll make you brave. They'll help you remember the good and forget the bad. The U.S. military, in my mind, is one of the only opportunities and one of the only professions where you can actually artificially expand your own family, because your shipmates, or for the Army in that matter and the other services, your comrades in arms, are actually family. If you lose a spouse, your shipmate is there. If you have a sick child, your shipmate's going to be there. If you fail professionally, shipmates will be there. If it's time to celebrate a success, oh, your shipmates are going to be there for that. In your old and gray years, some of your shipmates will be there. And when you're past that stage and your time gets small, your shipmates will be there. Same is true for all the services. Comrades in arms, brotherhood and sisterhood of service. So my message to those who are thinking about joining, or our ROTC cadets over here, and I met several of them before we started, is to embrace the life. Realize what you have. Don't take it for granted. Accept the challenge. And for those going into the Navy, hold on to your shipmates. Remember, 95% of this country does not serve. And that 95% wants to be you. Your approval numbers are better than chocolate. I don't mean to go into polling here, sorry. Better than those, you know, the Girl Scout cookies, the Thin Mints, I love those things. Your approval numbers are better than those. If you doubt what I'm saying, pay attention at your next high school reunion. There'll be plenty of people there. There'll be doctors, there'll be insurance folks, real estate folks, there will even be attorneys. No offense to the attorneys at the table, right? And what do they have to talk about? At most, nice house and a neat car. Everybody's going to be standing around you, talking to you, because you have something worth hearing. If you only do one tour in the service, you go to boot camp or OCS, you're probably going to live in at least 2 states, and if you deploy, you'll see 2 or 3 countries, and if you're blessed to be in the Navy or Marine Corps, that turns into 6 or 12 countries in one tour. Right there in one tour, you know more than they will ever know about what's going on actually in the world, and people want to hear it. So they'll be around you listening to your stories. You won't be making the big bucks, but it really won't matter. Because the folks that are making the big bucks, what do they face every day? The same bedroom, the same stairs, the same kitchen, going out to the same car, driving the same road to the same parking lot and parking space, in the same building, the same elevator, going up to the same office, living that life, the proverbial life of quiet desperation. But not you. Remember what you have. Embrace what you have. Embrace the life. Our veterans and our service members can go to bed every night knowing that you have guarded the gates, you have stood the watch in defense of the greatest nation in the world, an enduring republic of 327 million who enjoy the rare blessings of freedom and unbridled opportunity. And the 327 million Americans owe their freedom to a select few. You. Not a bad day's work, ladies and gentlemen. On this day, I offer you my thanks and my appreciation. And I wish the blessings of the Almighty on you, your families, and your country. Go Navy. Congrats, sir. Good capture.
On behalf of everyone here and Mill Vets, we'd like to present the Admiral with a small token of appreciation. It's a little bit unusual, signed by all the Mill Vet trustees. Go ahead and sit down. A little backstory. Obviously, the Admiral's a pretty gifted speaker. Backcountry farm kid from eastern Kentucky. You got a silver tongue, and I think you captivated our audience, and we appreciate that today. And thank you for being our guest speaker. The backstory on the ball is a little bit of a toolbox that I want to convey. Put this in your toolbox when you're a leader to my ROTC scholarship winners. The Admiral takes a basketball at DLA, and correct me if I'm wrong to your table over there, sir. He'll get the ball after the end basket's empty and the phone quits ringing, and he goes down the passageways, and he starts looking for offices. And they all hear him coming because he's dribbling. And when he goes into the room, he passes off the ball. And he lets his troops speak to him. Thank you for speaking to us, and thank you for letting us speak to you.
I was told I'm remaining for the Navy hymn on the stage. So if that is wrong, I will leave. Otherwise, we're in the business of following orders, and I'm following the order.
So
sea. Trinity of love and power, our brethren shield in danger's hour, from rock and tempest, fire and foe, protect them wheresoe'er they go. Thus evermore shall rise to thee glad hymns of praise from land and sea. Thank you, Udo and the band. I might add to the Admiral's comments, for those of you young veterans that are out there, don't forget the comradeship, and the comradeship continues with our veteran organizations, such as the American Legion, VFW, and the MVets represented here today. Please consider joining the comrades in arms. One of the functions of the MilVets is providing scholarships. Supporting the next generation with scholarships is core to what we are about. And to tell us about this year's scholarship recipients, please welcome our scholarship committee members, MilVet trustees Donna and Chuck Clark, and MilVets President Pete Zarate.
If I could have Cadet Helfrich and Cadet Rafe front and center on the stage. In addition, this could not happen, as Steve said. Could I have the corporate sponsors from Chase and the Ohio Veterans Foundation, Larry Frazee, and looks like Bill Costello's here today from Chase. If you could come up and also be present. This would not happen without those corporate sponsors and their donations. We had 4 winners this year from The Ohio State University. In order for a student to apply for a scholarship, we look at their GPA, SAT score, we look at their background, what they do at school, and we also get a scholarship essay on why they are seeking higher education. Now, the students are enrolled in the ROTC program of either in all of the branches at Ohio State. This year, we selected 4 students, and one of those students has gone on to receive the Ron Rosser Award. Cadet Kevin Helfrich, Air Force ROTC, majoring in aerospace engineering at the Ohio State University. He's a sophomore. He has earned nearly all A's, carrying a 3.6, but he's finished a 4.0 this last semester. Kevin has been challenged in pursuing his place in the Air Force as an officer. He seeks that challenge. He desires the leadership, the problem solving, using critical thinking, because he's a major in engineering and aerospace engineering. I think Kevin has figured out how to do it with such a great GPA, and his endorsement from his commanders say he's the top-notch kid for the Air Force program. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulate Cadet Kevin Helfrich, MilVets 2019 Armed Forces Day ROTC Scholarship winner. Cadet Allison Rafe, Army ROTC. She's majoring in environmental science at Ohio State University. As a sophomore, she earned a 3.58 GPA in her studies, and she would like to work on solving problems in other regions of the world who suffer from poor water access and quality. Her professor of military science, Lieutenant Colonel Toohey, says this about her character and her performance. She upholds the values of duty, honor, country in all that she does, physically fit, dedicated to the betterment of the battalion. She represents the moral fabric that makes the Army great. She is disciplined, loyal, and always puts the needs of others before herself. She lives in the Army values through selfless serving those around her. In addition, he is the runner-up of the Ron Rosser Scholarship Award. Ladies and gentlemen, Cadet Allison Rafe, MilVets 2019 Armed Forces Day Luncheon Scholarship winner. Unfortunately, we have two other winners that are not with us. Midshipman Rosalie Dionofreo. I messed that up totally. Navy ROTC. Do we have a photo of her? There may be one in the queue. She's majoring in security and intelligence with minors in business and naval science at The Ohio State University. She also is a sophomore. She has a 3.2 GPA with 3 majors. Her biggest mentor seems to be her dad. I looked at his DD-214, which read, Tactical Fighter Pilot, Naval Aviator. That's pretty motivating. Rosalie wants to obtain a commission. She wants to lead and educate her fellow sailors and become a fixed-wing naval aviator. Presumably, I guess, a tactical fighter pilot. Her professor at military science, Captain Kauffman, endorsed Rosalie with the strongest recommendations. She possesses untiring motivation, leadership, dependability, maturity, and drive. She's just a sophomore. Rosalie was runner-up for the Ron Rosser Scholarship. Ladies and gentlemen, she's not here today to receive Midshipman Rosalie Dionofreo, MilVets 2019 Armed Forces Day Scholarship winner. And finally, Cadet Joshua Bob is not with us today. Army ROTC majoring in business at Ohio State. He also is a sophomore. He's got a 3.5 GPA. His goal is to master his studies, earn a commission in the Army, and seek assignment as an infantry officer. Careful what you ask for. Joshua just earned Cadet of the Semester out of 180 of his peers. You have to be Cadet of the month before you can do that, so this kid's got a pretty good record as far as performance. Also, Lieutenant Colonel Toohey gave Cadet Bob his highest recommendations after seeing Cadet Bob develop leadership traits through numerous billets, assignments, and drills. His unwavering dedication to the Buckeye Battalion and the Army make him an outstanding Ron Rosser awardee. Cadet Bob could not be with us today because he shipped out for guard duty. I think he's going to Camp Atterbury this weekend, and I think in the next 2 weeks he ships out for Africa in support of international military exchange and support with allied forces. Ladies and gentlemen, Cadet Joshua Bob could not be with us today. He's the MilVets 2019 Armed Forces Ron Rosser Scholarship winner, which is a $2,500 award.
Thanks to the Scholarship Committee, and for those of you who don't know, Ron Rosser, we recognize him. He is a former Milvet trustee. He is also a recipient of the Medal of Honor from the Korean War, and we honor him by offering support to future students. In addition to scholarships, Milvet also recognizes leadership and commitment to the military in individuals and organizations. The Heritage Award is presented to a person or a group in our community who demonstrates strong and continued support for the military, the veterans, and our community. This year's honoree is the Columbus Blue Jackets, in recognition of their commitment to honoring our veterans, including military salutes, a program recognizing active duty military members and veterans for each home game and throughout the season. Can we have a representative from the Blue Jackets, please, come forward?
Blue Jackets. Thanks again for all the support this year and recognizing our veterans during the games. Thank you. Thanks very much. The Trustee Award presented each year to persons who show exceptional educational dedication, supporting and promoting MilVets. As most of you, MilVets is a 501(c) tax-exempt organization that relies on donated time, expertise, and money, and those from military veterans like Steve. He's a civilian retiree, got plenty of time, not really. He spends all of his time with organizations here seated, and it is this year he is the recipient of the MilVets Trustee Award.
Thank you. I'm just one of a team. Greater Columbus Concert Band will now play a medley of military branch songs. As a reminder, please stand when your branch song is played.
First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. Then it's hi, hi, hey, the army on its way. Count off the cadence loud and strong, 2, 3, for where we go. You will always know that the army goes rolling along. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First we fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Go our last night on shore, drink to the foam, until we meet once more. is wishing you a happy voyage home. We're always ready for the call. We place our trust in thee. Through surf and storm and howling gale, I shall our purpose be. Semper Paratus is our guide, our fame, our glory too. To fight, to save, or fight and die, High Coast Guard we are for you. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Adam boys, give her the gun. Down we dive, spotting a flame from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live in fame or go down in flame. Nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force. Go Navy, beat Army.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Rear Admiral Palmer, everyone who took time to join us today in honoring and celebrating our armed forces. We look forward to seeing everyone at the upcoming wreath ceremony, wreath laying at the State House as part of Memorial Day observances, and at the Central Ohio Veterans Day Parade, Friday, November 8th this year. Please stand for the playing of taps to remember those that have gone beyond for us. Thank you. That concludes our program.